until now, I know Governor Alex Otti is still probing. And imagine you got a billion naira and you cannot even fix anything in your stadium. That you have to be playing your CAF games at the Akwa Ibom Stadium, which is in Akwa Ibom. Away from that, we have a league that last year got 1.3 billion from Star Times. A year before, got 1.3 billion from Star Times. That was 2.6 billion. And I must confess to you, on paper, Star Times didn't even sell up to 100 decoders. They didn't even make up to 50 million back as profits. Guess what? They've pulled out of sponsorship, and right now we have no sponsor of the league. So there's no game on TV.
No league sponsor.
Let me just break it down again. Finally. So last year the prize winner got 120 million, and from second to 20 got 10 million for the year. So this year, because there's no sponsor, they now increase it to 150 million. And from second to 20, got 0 naira. So like a Red Monsters that spent close to 1 billion naira to execute this season, got 0 naira from the MPFL board. Now imagine how this league can move forward. And this same NFF are the people that appointed the CEO and the chairman of the MPFL. So if this NFF board enters again, that means these same clueless administrators running our football will retain another 4 years at the affairs of the MPFL.
Yeah, but what can we do, Poja? You are the expert. What can I do? Tell me what I can do. Olumide is here, I'm here. What are the civilians in this sports page? What can we do? Tell us.
Can I, Poja, can I help you a little bit? Let me just go
ahead, Jack.
Yeah, Poja. Thank you, Carlo, because I know a lot about sports and I'm also involved in the politics of it as well. So there was a time Poja was talking when he said that the FA chairman mostly are appointed by governors at the local level. They are appointed actually, right? Most of them, like Anambra State, for example, we don't have a commissioner of sports. So what we have is, Anambra State Football Federation. So you have an FA chairman that is appointed by the governor. Now, the only simple way, the way to fix Nigerian sport is simple, is leadership at the top, which is the president. Until we have a president that understands that has a clear understanding of sport administration, or somebody that is willing to listen to experts. Now, a lot of Nigerians don't understand that there's a difference between having. When Kanu Nwankwo was appointed, I called it out and I said it was a wrong appointment. A lot of people came for me because they felt that, I hated the guy because of the fact that, he's, that he was a former player, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, there's difference between knowing how to play football and understanding football administration. They are two different things. And if you remember, those of you that are following my handle, you notice that when Amobi Ezeaku was appointed in Enugu State, I did mention that this is Peter Mbah's best appointment as a governor so far. And today, people can see clear evidence of where Rangers was 3 years ago and where it is today. That is because somebody that understands sport administration is at the helm of affairs. Somebody that is not playing politics with football in Enugu, that understand what needs to be done, that understand grassroots, participation in football, opening academies, building even the younger generation, inspiring them. Enugu State, if I tell you the amount of money that Rangers is getting in terms of allocation on a monthly basis, and you compare it to some other big teams like Rivers United, like Remo Stars and all, you will not believe the gap. The margin is wide.
Yeah.
But why is Ezeaku? Why is the other guy in Enugu getting results with what he's doing, and these other guys are not? It's just competition. They promised Rivers United players $30,000 each of the players to win the league. Amobi Ezeaku and his players got just about 100 million, for the players after they won the league. You see the difference? The difference is massive, right? One is about money. The other person is about competence, right? So it's not even about the money. It's about having competent people that understand this and also have the passion, the love for the country to actually drive the process. If somebody that understands the impact of sport that understand that we can use sports to take over 5 million young people out of the streets in Nigeria. People are saying bandits. If you have viable clubs across board, where people can go to sports centers across Nigeria, and there's a participation side of sport. It's not even just about the competition. There is participatory sport, which is also healthy. Imagine a situation where you have a sports center where people can swim, where people managed by the locals and everything. We just need people that understand these things. And I didn't understand it 3-4 years ago until I met those that are grounded very well in sports administration, and that's why I formed a team and we floated the Ijele Sports Club. So the point I'm trying to make is simple. It has to start from leadership.
Yeah.
And these guys are there. They know them. If you come to the Nigerian sports, they know those that can take our administration to another level. They are few, but they are there. But the problem is that you need a president that is interested in sport to be able to appoint them.
So Jack and Poja and Olumide, my listing for me, Poja is saying we can't talk to NFF, we can't touch NFF. And we are now saying that we need the president to be in charge. I laid out a scenario where I was asking Poja a few questions. What can we do and how can we go to the state's FAs and remove those state FA guys or put people that you want that would then vote in a guy that you know can run the place? That's what I think can happen. Unless you guys have a better opinion. If you can, Poja, if you tell me this is what you want me to tweet that will help Nigerian football, I will tweet it.
I said something, and I think I was very clear. I said, and that's what Jack actually said. I said, we need a president that is going to break the NFF. Break in the terms of... So what I'm saying is, so what had happened a few years ago is, once there's government interference, NFL will run to FIFA.
Yeah.
FIFA will now send a letter that they call it Decree 101. They'll now say they were going to ban the country for 10 years because there's government interference. And because the government, of course, there will be so many people that will be pleading with the governor with the president that, see you, Nigerians will cry you, they're going to ban also. It will not yield, and of course, the nonsense will continue. So what Jack is saying is, if you have a president that is well grounded with good advisors, he will go to the NFF and break it. Interfere in terms of appointing. It's just like what is going on with APC. You should look at all the governors trying to decamp to APC because they saw that is actually interested in politics. So if the president is actually interested in sport, that's what will happen. All the FA chairman will conform because the president is speaking, and because the president is well grounded, he will pick a president, NFL president, that is good enough. That will not come and I will say, okay, fine, this is the guy I want. And all the FA chairman we align, I will vote for that person. That's where
maybe we should make Sheyi Tinubu NFF chairman. Someone like that.
So at that time, there will be ban. We'll be out of football.
People are laughing, but think about what I'm saying.
We don't care. Let them ban us. Let us fix our own, because we are only talking about we're not talking about the Super Eagles and the MPFL.
Yeah,
you know that
we
don't have any cadet team that is functional in Nigeria right now.
Can I do something different now? I think I have a different opinion. I understand Poja and Jack's view and their stakeholders in the industry, like the fact that they really want a transformation, but I think it's extreme. I think it's Draconian. I think it's really not.
I'm going to tweet it now. Make Sheyi NFF. I'm going to tweet it now.
I think that's an exaggeration. I think the solution, personally, if you ask me, I think one of the things I've noticed in Nigerian history is that Nigerian culture is that the best way to transform or the best way to revolutionize an industry is to make it attractive. How do you make it attractive? If you remember the banking industry, you remember the banking, how it was almost every ticket that you could create a bank. And you remember how it was so dirty when running the banking system. Yeah. And now it is now the likes of Fola Adiola, Jimovia, and that even created the base for fintech. Now we have Money Point to switch, Now, was it that we had seats in our revolution? No, they were as corrupt as what we had in what Poja and Jack is complaining about. So how was the solution? there was a force where a certain generation, and that's why I said that that G-Movia's generation, we might not really like them so much, but they transformed the banking industry. See that G-Movia, Fola Diola, Elmelu, AIG, Harvard. Look at what they've done in the capital market and the banking industry.
At Peter side, no.
Exactly, Peter side, God bless you. Now, what we really need now is that the sport is a multi-billion-dollar business. In fact, if you look at the revenue that comes from the sport economy, it's $2.3 trillion. That's 2% of the world GDP. If you look at revenue for 2025, was about $530 billion. About half of that goes to the United States. Now, Nigeria is not even tapping 0.5 of that. So what's the problem? You see, if you look at, for me now, like, I'm venturing into sport business, and one of the reasons why people ask me, but you're into finance, why are you going to sport? Because the finance space in Nigeria is crowded. And if you look at, it's like dog eating dog, because many things, like, there are so many opportunities, like sports now, for example. You look at e-commerce.
What do you mean you're into sports? What does that mean? You have a sports team or what?
No, sports. So I created a sport platform like League Bookers, but where, for example, where I'm looking at e-commerce aspects where you can connect the West with Africa and the other parts of the world. I saw a problem that gambling has cannibalized sports, and I felt like I could disrupt that space. And the fact that I've had exposure in America and the Western world, I understood that, okay, I have to come in from an high ground of trademarks, unique products. So what we're really doing, for example, is that we created a platform where you could buy tickets. If you're in the United States, you're in Europe, you could buy tickets for the World Cup, for Champions League. And also, you could also get interactive social platforms where you could buy jerseys, like authentic jerseys, because we realized that in many parts of the world, getting jerseys, it's not really as available as we. So we're looking at that business model. So, Carl, for me personally, I think there's a future in Nigeria. And sorry to say, our business model doesn't fit into Nigeria, because how many Nigerians can spend £60 to buy a jersey or $85 to $100 to buy a? Look at the World Cup ticket. So it boils down to being creative. I think when we start attracting the best brains in Nigeria into sports, for example, I don't think we should need it. I think we should need the president. The president didn't change the banking industry. Okay. I don't think the president changed the banking industry.
But only they did.
Let me just cut here. You know, when you talk about the banking industry, see, it's totally different from sports. Let me give you an example. See, Mobike is there as well. When you have a big organization like FIFA that is corrupt as well, you see a Go project that you spent over $1 million to build. And, you know, there's agitation even from the government, from the National Sports Commission, there's even from the citizen of the country. And the whole FIFA body comes out to say, we are satisfied with it. What will you do? There's nothing you can do. So for us to get this thing properly done, we need to break the people at the administrative level. Because these people have been running football in Nigeria for the past 30 years. And now, like I said, and now they are going for another election. And the election is not a banking system election. It's not a system that is open to. Because it's not a system that is open.
Let me even help you. So there is something Olumide said that I disagree with totally. And which is when he said that it wasn't the government that fixed the banking system. My brother, it was the Central Bank of Nigeria that drove the reforms that reformed all our banks and made them giants, right? Hold on. So the issue is that you need to understand. I think only Poja, because Poja is directly involved in running a football club. So you understand what I'm saying. And I can tell you that it's only those that are involved in running sports clubs in Nigeria that actually will understand the depth of the rot. And we know that the only way to fix it is at the top. It's not about bringing in players. There are a lot of players outside that have money that want to come into the system. But they cannot come with the current. They can't come in with these current players.
Jack, let me say this, and I will give you the floor. Let me just say this. So we are talking about, making it attractive. I think the MPFL is attractive enough because we have someone that is a billionaire, Honorable Shoname, that has built a big empire. He has the best facility in Nigeria at Ikene. And this particular guy, of course, have been, open to so many, has opened the eyes of so many private individuals to come on board and, buy clubs, do this kind of facility. I think he's the one that, of course, influenced our own owner, which of course is Doughty, influenced Sporting Lagos, influenced Inter Lagos. But guess what? The system ruined him and is now relegated. Won the league last year and got relegated this year. And he's saying, as a billionaire, he's saying he's going to, disband the club. So what does that inform you? A billionaire in a league saying he's going to end his football club. He's not going to attract any private individuals.
What Abiola Babes? Abiola Babes. Still Abiola Babes issue till today?
Yes, but let me finish what I'm trying to say so that I'm not saying that your solutions are not well noted, but I think it's extreme. Let's be honest. There's a reason why you can't interfere in football association. There's a reason why people meet like that. And we have to be honest that even places like from China to the United Kingdom, how they make it work and what is different. I'm not saying that corruption is not institutionalized. Nobody's arguing about that. But I'm saying that, Jack spoke about reforms. But before reforms, there are certain people that brought out ideas that created their venue and they tapped on reforms. If you look at the story of GT and Zenith, for example, it wasn't before the reforms came in that they brought in certain regulation. What I'm saying now is that, for you to be very great, for you to break a space or gatekeepers, you must come from a place of higher grounds. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that because the truth of the matter is that the president does not have the political power to break into FIFA and the balance for 10 years. Okay. I think Nigerians will not cry. Nigerians will cry 10 years, and you think the president wants that? The president has a lot of things he's facing. He's facing security. He's facing food inflation. He's facing weak disposable income from the middle class.
All right,
so what I'm saying personally is that I think we need to find a solution that would be winning for everyone.
Okay.
Because what Poja and Jack is saying is that you're saying that we should go extreme. If we're going extreme, we also have to look at the political and economic cost in the long term. That's what I'm saying.
All right, let's get a few guys to also hop in and hit up. Let's get Polonium. Polo M77, let's have you first, then we'll just go to Egbon. Polo, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carlo.
Yeah.
Thank you for your conversation. Pooja, I just wanted to just say commend you for your activities in the sporting world and how you present Nigeria. My brother Jack, good to see you. I unfortunately wanted to go into the problems we have in the country regarding sports and everything, but that's already clear. We all know the problems. I mean, basically, we are faced with the reason I requested the mic was when Pooja particularly mentioned the president. Out of particular interest, I have some reservations about that, and I'm going to point that out in a minute. But I just rather feel that if the state governors, if we had state executives who were investment-minded, they would have rather done a lot more for our sports, than I would have expected the presidency in the federal federal Aso Rock to do. So I want to ask Pooja, my question is directly to him. What particularly is the role of the Federal Minister of Sports? And if you were in that position today, what would you do to solve the problem that we're having in the country regarding our sports? Mr. Carlo, thank you for your space always. Pooja, if you would indulge me, that's my submission. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Pooja, people are commenting about this, your statement that Nigeria has a league of no commercial value. Jesus, man. I mean, it's true. That the problem with that quote is that it's true. How can a nation of 200 million people that has Osimhen, has all this, that has produced so many, JJ Okocha, he just got an award this World Cup, has a league of no commercial value? Okay, yeah, Sean, please go ahead for Pooja Thoms. Go ahead. I can't pronounce your name.
Hello.
Yeah,
hello, yes, Samuel Abad is in it. Thank you very much.
Real quick,
I really appreciate this program. And I also commend Pooja. We are seeing your good work. The Lord continues to lift you up.
Amen.
And we pray that many
Amen.
of you, God will lift us up on. And people, like you guys were saying, to me, the solution to Nigerian sports, I feel like the last speaker said, we don't have leaders who are business oriented. We only have leaders who are highly corrupted. Look at Nigeria's elections. Look at Nigeria's those in power. That has been the major problem we are having in the country. For example, if you have governors, president who is willing to solve the corruption issue in Nigeria, every other thing will follow suit one after the other. Okay, take for example, look at this man, the former NFF president, who is now the deputy teams competitions in FIFA, I think. You went to the TV, you said you have done a documentary on Johanna. How does Johanna's success come from him? I don't get that. You went to, I think it was on Arise, I want to believe. You were saying that it pains you that Nigeria don't go for the World Cup. This is two consecutive World Cup, and then Nigeria will win the next World Cup and the next Nations Cup, and then we will qualify. How is that? How you do it? What have you done to the NFF board? Part of the problem created by you is what is causing the problem we're having till now. Players come from abroad to come and play for Nigeria. You can't even give them a befitting hotel. When to talk about developing the league. If you cannot do that, there's no way the league can develop. So for me, like Poja said, we need to break into that glass house. For you to break into that glass will be difficult because we have leaders who are not ready to solve the Nigeria's corruption issue. That is the bane of contention. There is no, I doubt it is possible for anybody to say they want to break into that glass house. Because this Busari himself, how can you not go to the World Cup? How can Nigeria not qualify to push the World Cup? And there is nothing the national body is doing about it. All of them, I believe they have committee on sport in the House of in the Nigerian National Assembly. What have they done? All of them are highly corrupted. Money are being awarded. People are going out with money.
All right.
This is the problem we have. If you see that, like people are saying, they are not so. Sport is one of the ways whereby we can develop Nigeria. We can bring people in. You can through sport, you develop Nigeria to the highest level. We have different talents in every area of sport. Just imagine the former Nigerian basketball coach just won the league with in America
with the Knicks.
That's it. Which it is. That's to tell you that we have these people who can do the job for us, but there is no environment to get the job done. So this time from the fact that we need to have a proper leaders on board who are ready to stop corruption in Nigeria. If the corruption, for example, corruption is also, for example, you're talking about Abia State, they are still looking into it all this while. If you don't have it, for example, if you have a governor who is not interested, who is bent on spending money and not developing the state, how can you make a committee that will look into that?
Thanks
so much.
Yeah, comments are well taken. But let me go around the block again as well. Let's do Egbon. Let's do Egbon. We've got Egbon, and then we'll come to Kish Money. I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead. We'll do Egbon, then we'll go to Kish Money. Go ahead.
God bless you for opening this space. Poja, we've seen your work. Continue to do the good things. Continue to represent Nigeria. First of all, for me, I studied sports in Cardiff Met. I was a coach in Nigeria before I left in 2024. And my dream was to teach students basketball to play in the NBA. We had a very big dream, But I first realized something that the food required, my players were very tiny. They were struggling to pay school fees. I first couldn't feed them. So when we went for competitions, we always lost because the schools we were playing against were those from like Grange, people like Dorego. So we were always losing. So at the time, I knew that, guys, sports is expensive. And unfortunately for Nigeria, the only reason why it is not working is because politicians cannot profit from it. That's it. And it is because it is a long-term investment with very, very, exponential gains. But it is long-term. You cannot see the billionaire Poja mentioned, who I've been watching him. He's been trying his best. But it's expensive. It's very, very expensive. And I did a research. I wrote an article on the profitable places in sports. As the owner, you can earn. As a player, as an athlete, you can earn on any sport. There are over 200 sports. I should just let you guys know. So if you're having these routes in NFF that everybody is asking, what's happening in wrestling, what's happening in other sports, what's happening in basketball.
Yeah.
So you can profit as the owner, you can profit as an athlete, you can profit as a coach, you can profit as a referee, you can profit as a psychologist, all in sports. And you cannot profit as a fan. So in all these careers I've mentioned, which one do we have most in Nigeria? Many Nigerians are fans. That's why you see many Nigerians now, they are using their best to be arguing with Messi and Ronaldo. And that is not where the money is. The money is being a participant. Even as a journalist, you can make money. But unfortunately, we have a system that is so corrupt that because the politicians cannot gain from this, and I'll give you real life case study. Anthony Joshua came to Nigeria. He has come to Nigeria twice. Before you can get Anthony Joshua to even come to your show, go ask Saudi, they pay over $1 million then just to come to a show, not even to fight. Anthony Joshua came to Nigeria like twice. The government were the ones just shaking hands with him. He was going to see the governor, going to see everybody. He went to Ghana immediately after leaving Nigeria. Do you know what the president's son did? He organized an exhibition match. They would have made money that day. Kalu is so bad. There's no referee from Nigeria that went to AFCON. Zero referee. But guess who were complaining about the referees the most? These are real life stories I'm telling you.
What hit me was when you talked about the food that they eat. You know, a friend of mine, his son just started to play in the NFL. And I knew this boy when he was born. When he grew up in America, he got to the high school. He went to Ohio State. Now he's in the NFL. He plays in the Buccaneers. And the day the father showed me where the boy stays in Ohio State, they have a cook per athlete. They cook for your body, the gym and everything, to build them and all that. Like you say, it's not cheap. Sport is not cheap. It's a business. That's what we're talking about, the business side. We can't look at sports. I think it was MQ Abiola that said there's the business, so it can't be a development activity. I remember Abiola Babes, and we had a billionaire back then doing Abiola Babes. Where's Abiola Babes today? Enyimba came when they had the government. Where's Enyimba today and all that? So the problem again, like we're all identifying, is that there's just no handoff. Somebody good comes, the sports does well. Somebody good goes away, the sports dies. Like you said, what's happening to tennis? What's happening to badminton? Where's grasshoppers? If we enter athletics today, we won't come out of it. We used to have mobile track and field. We used to have Innocent Ebunike. You know, I studied the athletics before. Do you know that when I did that study, only West Africans, there was only one guy that was not West African. That was the Frankie Fredericks from Namibia. Only West Africans had broken the 10-second speed in 100 meters. Only West Africans. All the guys in Jamaica, where you can trace them all back to West Africa, because a particular gene that West Africans have that allowed the muscles to get oxygen and run. This is scientific. Only West Africans. If you look at all Jamaicans that have won it, their parents are either West African or they are West African. Only Frankie Fredericks. Now, you have a Chinese guy that won 110-meter hurdles. So China, from nowhere, they won the relay medals as well. Relay. You run fast, you hand over. How has China done this? They've just done the team effort. They put money in. So with money, you can beat genes. Nigeria has got the genes. If you do it based on genes, only West Africans can run 100 meters and win. Only go and start. Look at the history. Look at all the guys in Canada, the guys in the US. They are all linked to West Africa. But now China is there. So if you don't have the money and the organization, skill will take you nowhere. Egmont, thanks for your what you are doing. I hear you completely. Let's get Kish Money. Kish Money, then we'll do Ben. Kish Money, then Ben. Look.
Yeah, hello guys. A very good evening to everyone. Poja, what's up? Very good.
Thanks, Poja, again. Yeah.
Carlos. Alright. Poja mentioned earlier that one of the key problems we face in African football is corruption, and that is for sure. Actually, I'm a Sierra Leonean. I'm based in the city in Freetown, and I've invested so much in football for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
But it's because I've been working with the wrong people. I ain't seeing any positive, no good results. So it's got stuck from where I started up to now. So no improvement, nothing like that. So like, I don't see like that's gonna be different with Nigeria, because everywhere in Africa, everywhere you go, you see a lot of corruption everywhere. Poja, by the way, I'm thinking of sending you a DM to see how very best we can work together trying to create an academy over here, maybe here in Seattle, maybe in Nigeria, because we've got a lot of talented boys here that know how to play football very well. I've got a lot of investors that stays in the UK, in Canada, also in the US, okay? So I'll be sending you a DM, Poja, okay? So just like how I was saying, the key problem here in Africa is corruption. And I saw a video, I think, was it earlier this year or maybe I think it was in the end of last year, that I think with Daniel's husband, ex-husband, I don't actually know his name, he was trying to create a mini stadium. I think he got sponsored by the government and all that. But what I saw from the videos and pictures that I saw online on Facebook from his page, that picture stadium is not up to the kind of standard that some European countries are using, all of that. But just to run it up, all it is corruption. If we can't fix and tackle corruption as a whole, okay, like what is Very Dark Man is doing, trying to get people out to go and protest and all that, to stop corruption and free the kids that are the kidnapped. I'm following everything about what is going on in Nigeria. I stay over in Sierra Leone, but I'm following everything about Nigeria. Okay, so we need to stand firm as one and try to tackle this thing. If we don't try to stop corruption in Africa, trust me, this thing gonna continue to happen years after years. So that's all I gotta say.
All right,
thank you.
Poja, please go ahead, Poja.
Okay, so Coco, let me just respond to the guy that talk about how, what the chairman of Nigerian Sports Commission is doing. And I think what he's doing is very crazy, because, he prepared the document during the Buhari regime, prepared the document on, converting the Ministry of Sports to National Sports Commission.
Uh-huh.
And when Tinubu got into power, he got a wink of the book, of the document, and he said, okay, fine. Who are the people that did this document in terms of, turning, and of course, remember, during his own time in Lagos State, there was no Ministry of, Ministry of Sports. It was Sport Commission, and that's what we are still using in Lagos State. So he now said, call the guys that prepared this document and let them come on board. And that was when, he brought on, Alhaji Diko, and of course the DG Olopade, and they now broke down the Ministry of Sports. They now started the National Sports Commission. And funny enough, it's very difficult for them to deal with NFF. That is why there's a little progress when it comes to, the other sports. Because the National Sports Commission is not about football, it's about all sports. And when they got to power, funny enough, we have faction in wrestling, we have faction in basketball, we have faction in tennis. All other sports were grounded to a halt. To the point that NBBF and the governing body of basketball had to ban the NBBF from Nigeria. Athletics was in shambles. So it's a very difficult job to do, because like someone said, we have over 200 sports under the National Sports Commission. So every Nigerian is talking about the Super Eagles, talking about football. Football is just one out of the 200 sports under the National Sports Commission. That is why what they are doing now for other sports is what they call grant. Now we have an athlete that is getting grants per month. We have and there's still a lot of, because of this corruption, there's still a lot of problem in other sports. Rugby, there's problem in rugby, there's a problem in basketball, there's a problem in tennis, there's a problem in wrestling. Wrestling that gives us most of the biggest, medals across the board. Para wrestling, there's problem. So it's a big task for him. And the reason why I'm mentioning the president is during the Buhari regime, when Pinnick wanted to enter as NFL president, he took a wing of some big advisors around Buhari, and they actually had to, maybe hold the hands of the FA chairman to vote for Pinnick, and everybody thought Pinnick was the holy grail. Because he was Delta State FA, he was turning up sponsorship, he was doing so well at Delta State FA, and everyone thought that, okay, this guy is not the normal guy. Let him come into power. And he spent 8 years, and it was nonsense. It was one of the best regimes. Because let me just round up with this. There's somewhere that is called Mohammed VI in Morocco. I've been to Morocco like more than 30 times. And, Morocco called us for a tour for that facility. That facility can hold the national team at a go. The under 17 can be there. The under 23 can be there. The under 20 can be there. The senior national team can be there from the male and the female category. So they can accommodate over 200 athletes because they have over 7 world standard stadium. Guess what? When they wanted to start that project, I think in 2021, the NFF chairman, which of course was Pinnick, the NFF vice president, which is now the National Sports Commission chairman, Shehu Diko, went to Morocco to collect the prototype of that facility and came back to Nigeria and spent 8 years and did nothing. And when they collected that prototype, guess what? Morocco have not even laid a foundation. And they built that facility in 6 years with FIFA money, government money, and sponsorship. And after 8 years, now it's going to 12 years, we don't have a facility that can host at least a professional football in Nigeria, except from a state-owned stadium, which is Akwa Ibom. So the problem is corruption, because the money that Morocco collected from FIFA was the same thing this guy collected from FIFA in 2021. Morocco built something that is world class, and Nigeria built zero from the money. I don't know where to still start from Poja. We don't have a local league. International is not working. Admin guys are not working. I don't know where to even start from Poja, honestly speaking. Let me get Lukman, hop in here. We'll do Lukman, then we'll do Obong. Oh, Ben, I have Ben here. Sorry about that. Let's do Lukman, Ben, and then we'll do Obong C. Lukman, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. I want to also say a big shout out to Poja for what he's doing. Don't mind Logi Stars. I know you're a fan, so forget about it with all he's doing on the timeline. So actually, I didn't want to even to talk, but I think Ebon spoke, and then he caught my attention when he spoke about being a participant or a stakeholder in the sport world. That just being a fan ends you nothing. So you have to participate. And then he spoke about so many things. And when he just said referee, that was when my whole mood changed, because I'm a football fan, I'm a football lover. I play football, I coach, I referee, anything about football I do. But in terms of the sport I'm best at, I would say pool, which is snooker. I know I can't play at the professional level. It's also a sport. Even if you go at the international level, they have series of leagues and competitions they organize. I'll still need maybe coaching and all of that before I can play at that level. But in a place like Nigeria, it's only football. And even when you come to football, you look at the young talents you have. There's so much, I don't know if it's this dichotomy or is it corruption. I don't really know what to point to say this is the problem our sport have in general. But even the football, how many players do we produce that go to overseas or play abroad? Then coming back to even our local competition, say the Nigerian league, there should be an avenue where the league is so advanced that not all the players want to even go abroad, because the one they have, the domestically they have within, is flourishing, and is a way to go. So they don't have to be like eyeing the pounds paying leagues or the dollar paying leagues. So, but all those problems are just there. Now, one of the reasons why I gave up my dream on being a referee actually was I just saw that there was no future in it. In fact, there was a time I was so passionate about it, I started thinking of maybe like Jabba to go to maybe all these European countries or even Arabian countries and nationalize or something like that, and find a way and get myself into the refereeing association in those countries. But along the line, I just gave up. But I was very, very passionate about it, good at it. One of the things that I just realized was I could not even remember when last Nigerian referees were invited to come over to officiate in just even the AFCON or even this CAF Champions League that is played year in, year out. That's like the biggest stage for referees around Africa. So AFCON, CAF Champions League, CAF Confederation League. It's only, I think, was it early this year, I learned that about, 20 to 30 of Nigerian referees were now offered the FIFA badge. Without that FIFA badge, there is no way you participate in anything FIFA organizes as far as competitions are concerned. Be it on the 17, be it on the 20, be it on the
question
the AFCON.
Question for you, Lukman. How do you get a FIFA badge? Do you have to referee FIFA tournament? How do you get a FIFA badge? Just quick answer.
It's kind of it's a process actually. There are different seminars, different avenues. Just like the way they do the normal scouting of players. It's also something like that. You just have to go through different phases and stages before.
So if your league is SHIT, can you get a FIFA badge?
No.
You cannot. How did this Somalian guy get a FIFA badge? That Somalian guy that is trending. How does he get a FIFA badge?
In fact, when I heard, I was asking myself that I don't even come across Somalian leagues anywhere, either on the score apps or whatever. But I don't know how he did it. Well, I can't see.
All right.
I don't just.
All right, look, man. Thanks. Let's do Ben. We'll do Ben, and we'll come to Obong. Ben, how you doing? Ben, look, man. Thanks so much for your contribution. Ben, go ahead. Ben, are you there?
All right. Thank you, Carlo.
You're very welcome. Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. Very, very important conversation that we are having this evening. I think that we don't have conversations like this enough. I think that the sports ecosystem, they need to come together. Even some of us that are not focusing on sports, we need to start looking at it. We need to come together, and have a narrative that we would push for progress, to ensure that the sports ecosystem in Nigeria begins to yield very, very good fruits. There's 200 million people in Nigeria. I think a lot of people have pointed this out. If you're looking at how to create jobs, one of the fastest ways to create a lot of jobs that would be sustainable, that would be satisfactory, because sports is one industry that a lot of people would love to work in, even if they are not being paid like very high salaries. As far as the money is enough for them to live and they have, a reasonable life, they are fine with it. So it's a key sector that the government needs to look into, or Nigerians need to look into, to ensure that, we are able to create a very, very profitable ecosystem, because the value proposition is too large. The value proposition is too large. We have a lot of people here. We have eyes. We have people who love various sports. Football is big in Nigeria, but we don't also know that basketball is very, very big in Nigeria. There are a lot of small businesses, smaller businesses that I know. There's this business that is trending now across the 3 key cities, Port Harcourt, Lagos, and Abuja. You just set up it's sort of like a bar, but you have where people can play football. where people can play basketball. Everybody that I know like 3 people that started that business. Everybody I know that started that business now, they're all making money. So if you come down to that micro level and you look at what they've done at that level, you see that the appetite is there. People are willing to pay. I remember I was talking to an entrepreneur in his business. He was allowing people to just come and use barefoot to play. Later on, I said, why don't you just tell them to pay? This was in Port Harcourt. Why don't you just tell them to pay 1,000 and offer them boots to 1,000 for each time you use the boots? He felt people won't have the money to pay, but surprisingly, the people that he felt didn't have the money to pay, we are even paying more, than that one. At some point, you have to increase it. So the profitability is there, the value proposition is there. We just need to come together with a unified voice and push a narrative, because government responds to noise. If you make noise that is directed at, that is strategic and directed properly, government will respond to it. In football, I think a lot of people have spoken about the problems. Yeah, there's corruption for sure, but if I'm to sum it up, in Nigeria, you have a situation where the government does not have enough money to independently fund sports. That's number one. Number two, the external funding they are getting from FIFA is now being swallowed by the corrupt entity. So the solution first has to come from policy changes, because one of the easiest ways to raise money is to change policy. If you change policy and set your policies in a way that will attract investors, when you change that policy, investors will come and things will begin to work.
Okay.
But you see, someone mentioned the billionaire that was doing Sporting Lagos and Inter Miami and Inter Milan was the other team. So the problem with that, I respect that man a lot, but the king there is he's like a one-man army in a way. He's the only billionaire that is doing that. If 5 billionaires decided that, okay, in Nigeria, we want to carve out our lane in sports, we want to do something meaningful with sports, then they can form a strong lobbying group and then they can make changes. Now, in football, I understand that there's some issues with FIFA limiting the government's, government's control of NFF. But this is just my own view for the solution in terms of policy. We have to reduce the powers of NFF. We have to move Nigerian football to a stage where it favors privatization. If it does not favor privatization, private investments, if we're still trying to run this socialist government-run thing, the government does not have enough money, and the small money that the government has, they will steal it. So you need private people that want to come and run an operation to make profit, to come in and run this business. The NFF, the Nigerian government right now, I know that this government is a private-friendly government. Let me just round up. I know that this government is a private-friendly government, but right now the government has to find a way to reduce the powers of NFF, to ensure that NFF should focus on the national team. Everything that has to do with the league should be privatized. No government entity should be allowed to own majority stake in a football club or a basketball club or whatever the case may be. So we need to move towards the privatized capitalist direction, because as much as football, as successful as football is, even basketball, it's capitalism that made this sport successfully globally. So if you want to make your own successful, you can't try to do it in a socialist way. You have to ensure that you are setting the table for private investors to come in and invest. That's the only way it can work. If you are waiting for the government and the small money that they are getting for FIFA to change, nothing will change. I assure you, nothing. It will keep getting worse. So that's just one point I want to drive home in this space. Thank you.
Appreciate the comments. We're going to privatize it, bring private capital in. Completely agree. Look at America. It's all private capital. I think I put a tweet about the college stadia.
Especially, yes. I mean, the American model is something we should look into.
Hold up. A Nigerian guy was tweeting that Americans, it doesn't see any adverts or any news about the World Cup in America. So I did a bit of research. See, the reason why you don't see Americans talking about the World Cup is that it doesn't move the economic needle in America at all. The World Cup is like maybe Super Bowl. It's like a weekend for them. The total value add for the World Cup in America, it doesn't tilt their economic, it doesn't do anything for them. So it's not that they don't like soccer, but soccer is so small compared to, say, the NFL or even the hockey league is so small. So it's just an economic economics for them. They didn't build anything new for to host the World Cup. It's just, okay, you're going to do it for 2 weeks and then you'll be done. That's how they look at it. They like it, but the economy is just so big that the World Cup, you put the World Cup in, it's just like the next series alone perhaps will generate more economic value in America. Next playing the Cavs than was it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just the economy is just too large. This is just college, yo. We're not talking about NFL. This is just college. College sports alone is bigger than the World Cup in America. College sports alone. Before you go to talk about, apart from soccer is very small in America. But for football, basketball, baseball, man, those guys are gone. Oh, AFC, real quick, before I'm getting Obong, real quick, what's your mind? AFC Madrid, real quick.
Okay, so thank you very much. So I just want to reiterate again that the business of sports depends heavily on credibility. Just like you said now, Oga Kalu. I am in the United States, and I can tell you for a fact that there are places where you're going to tell them that the World Cup is going on right now, and they'll tell you that they're not even aware. It's not as if, like you said, it's just a pinch of out of what the country itself is handling. So yeah, this might be odd. This might also be a quote that we also need to take note of. Sponsors. When we are talking about sponsors, they invest where governance exists, and you see broadcasters, they invest where data exists, and investors, they always commit where predictability exists. I think these are the three things that we struggle to find in our country.
Yeah, but
our sponsors.
I know, but
we can't solve those problems.
Yeah, very, very quick.
Primarily controlling the league.
I don't get us to speak, but let us make this point, right? In America, right, when your child plays in primary school, secondary school, they get the parents to sponsor. They will send you those flyers. Your kid is playing. You have to put your sticker on the stadium. If you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're doing your small business, you are the one sponsoring the local volleyball or local whatever league. The parents. Then the parents will now tell the granddad, the grandmom. So when they're playing sports, who's going to watch? The parents. It's not a question of just saying the government and sponsorship. But before they get to Coca-Cola sponsoring a tournament, the family of the athlete is sponsoring the team. You see them saying soccer moms. Soccer moms, how did it start? The soccer moms will buy those cars, move those kids from tournament to tournament. Have you seen a family in America that is trying to get their kid into professional sports? It's a job. You have to fly here, drive here, pay for this. They pay for cook. They pay for... So... It's back to the family. It's not just the government. Poja has missed a few points. It's back to the family. If you want this thing to progress, we can't leave it for the government. We have to take charge of football or sports in Nigeria. We can't allow some guys that's going for election in September to become NFF chairman. Went for 3 cycles, 12 years. Nigeria's not going for the World Cup. 12 years. Crazy. MC, we're going to go real quick. I'll cycle the room. Others haven't spoken, right?
Okay, so just like
real quick, AFC, real quick.
Yeah, real quick. So just like you said just now, here in the United States, it's a full-time job for some parents. Just getting your kiddos to just participate in sports. And unfortunately, when it comes to Nigerian sport administration, there's so many things that that are just characterized by the policy. How inconsistent our policies are. How exactly how transparent we are. We've had people that will be like, okay, is there a way we can?
Okay, I gotta move. Okay, so yeah,
is there a way we can build like a small club? Is there a way we can build like a small club there in Nigeria where we can be recruiting talents? But who exactly are we going to talk to? As part of our system, is it the NFF? Is it the Ministry of Sports? Because when you go to them, the first thing they're going to ask you is, wait till you carry come.
I hear you.
I'm bringing an investor, somebody that wants.
AFC, we've got to rotate the room. All want to speak, right? Let's do Obong, Collins. Yeah, Obong, Collins, Udo. Collins, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. It's Collins, not Collins.
I do apologize. Sorry.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
And First of all, to answer the last speaker who's talking about investment,
Yeah.
if you're coming to set up an academy, you don't need to talk to anybody. Just come in, set up your academy, and do what you need to do. As of this time, there is no regulation for academies, and I can tell you that for free because I've proposed it to them. We've talked about it numerous times about setting up a proper structure for academies in Nigeria, sitting down with the major academy owners, coming up with certain benchmarks for setting up academies, the ratio of coaches to players, all of that stuff. And because the reason why that is important is that if you look at our teams, or at least our players in Europe, about 90% of Nigerian players in Europe did not transfer from the NPFL, they transfer from academies to Europe. Even if you look at our Super Eagles team as currently constituted, apart from the players who were born in the diaspora, the ones who came through from Nigeria to Europe, the majority of them went from academies rather than transfer from academies rather than from NPFL club. As a matter of fact, so the newest wonder kid, Johanna Zadok, transferred from an academy to AIK and has now made the biggest transfer to Brighton and Hove Albion. So anybody who wants to set up an academy at this time, come in, set up your academy, do what you need to do, and the ROI comes from transferring players to Europe. And that answers that. Like I said, I don't know. I think I misplaced my notes. There was a lot of things that have been spoken.
Yeah, a lot.
I want to
Carlo, please, can I ask
No,
this guy a question about
Ben.
Can I just ask him? Let me just engage him, please. It's very important.
Ben, hold up.
Reasons.
He's here, and I want you to just because we don't have Colin. I mean, I don't know when you joined the space, right? But really, we're talking about when Nigeria is not here for this third World Cup. We're talking about the lack of infrastructure. Talking about the lack of, should we say, governance. Even the clubs in Nigeria, just the structure. I mean, what's your overall take about this sport? We're doing football because sport is large, but just for football, where are we? What are we doing wrong? What can we do better?
So I think the first, the foundational issue we have is that we're trying to separate sports in Nigeria from Nigeria itself. And when you start to do that, we're putting sports on a pedestal where the rest of the country is not. I mean, and I'll give you an example of what I mean. We talk about refinery, for instance. I was a third-year university student at University of Port Harcourt some 30-something years ago. And as part of our field trip, we went to the Port Harcourt refinery as engineering students. We went to the Port Harcourt refinery on a field trip, and when we got there, we were told that maintenance work was being done on the Port Harcourt refinery. Back then, it was called LME Petrochemicals. They were doing this, they were doing that, and that within 1 year, the refinery was about to full capacity to serve Nigeria, and not just Nigeria, even neighboring African countries, and so on and so forth. We're 30 years down the line. I'm an old man now. I have kids. I might be a grandfather soon. And the Port Harcourt refinery is still where it was. Nothing has changed. Same thing with all the others. So when we try to separate sports from the terrible reality that Nigeria is, I guess we're wishing pigs will fly, to be honest. Having said that, there are things that we can do, and Pooja has made a lot of good points about the situation that is going on within. Not to flog a dead horse, but we're in a position where the major issue with our sports is government involvement. Because there is government involvement, there is a lack of accountability. And that lack of accountability just recycles the whole bad situation over and over and over again. Where I disagree with Pooja is when you say the NPFL has no value. I think that's what you said. The NPFL, it doesn't have value. What it does is it doesn't have is actually people with the capacity to unlock that value. And I'll tell you why. I've been involved at both micro and macro levels with sports in Nigeria. I spent 8 years as a member of the NFF marketing committee. I spent 4 years on the board of working on the board of more than 4 years, I think, of Sharks and Dolphins, working directly with the Commissioner of Sports. And you know, I'm also involved in the setting up of Sporting Lagos with Shola and co. So I've got tribal knowledge of sports at a very micro level in Nigeria and also going up to a macro level. And over a lot of everything that everybody has said here, there's no will here to reinvent. Almost everything that has been said here has either been proposed or at least people have tried to implement it. The issue is that you have folks within the system who sort of benefit from the chaos that goes on, and so they are unwilling to let go of the system as it currently is. And what they fail to understand, which some of us have tried to, knock into their heads over and over again, is that 0% of 100 million is still 0%. But 1% of 100 million is at least 10 million.
At least.
So what they are doing is that they believe in all of these little leakages here and there that they can benefit from without looking at the big picture of, how they can benefit legally, appropriately from a sports industry, culture, and business that generates income and generates revenue for everybody. And it's not just Nigeria. England were in the same position. When David Dean and co. wanted to start the English Premier League, back then English football was terrible. It was an eyesore. They played on muddy pitches. And then they had that 89 Hebrew disaster in 89 that just sort of brought the whole house crashing down. And David Dean and he called them his band of, I think I've forgotten what name he called them, were a soccer Rex together when he was. But he said they were working in secret. A few of them were working in secret for months and months and months, meeting at night, just trying to introduce the idea of the Premier League. Football people, both administrators and players and even ex-players, thought that they were trying to take football away from them, and they resisted them. So it was only until they had got everything together that they finally made their plans public. And it's the same thing with Nigeria. A few years ago, Nduka Irabo was chairman of the league. Shehu Diko was his vice chairman. And there was a meeting where they sat down with the stock exchange, came up with an idea to privatize these clubs, let the governments hand over so that the club can be privatized, and then they can be run as proper business enterprises with profit generation, so that whatever you put in, at least, even if you don't break even, you know that you have, so even if you don't make profit, you can either bring or at least minimize your losses, But what happened? People who run the clubs, after they had this meeting, sat down with the governors and had some sort of, agreements in principle, people who had the ears of the governors went to whisper things to them, and the governors reneged on all of those agreements in principle. So, we go back to square one. A lot of these things can be resolved by simply saying, hey, look, you know what, let's leave the professionals run, and then let the schools, run things the way they should. I'm happy to sit and answer a lot of questions because, like I said, I have a lot of private knowledge on this, and I missed a lot of the stuff that you guys talked about. I'm taking it on a point by point basis. But let me give you a quick example. When I was appointed into the NFF marketing committee in 2014, after Ahmad became NFF president, I had a chance to look at all the documents from the sponsorship document. And I could not believe some of the things I saw. For instance, there was a sponsor who was paying 1 million naira in a year as sponsorship fee to the NFF. 1 million naira. Even I could pay that money at that time. 1 million naira that the sponsor was supposed to pay. Then the biggest sponsor at the time, go back, well, I don't know, I think was paying about 150 million. Across 11 national teams. That was sponsor. Yeah, that's public knowledge. Which other one again? I'm trying to think of.
Okay, so I mean, Colin, what most people are saying, because most of us that are civilians in this field are asking, so what's the alternative now? How can we put pressure? Because if a bank was charging money through ATM fees, Nigerians know what to do. They will go online, they will talk, there's CBN, there are regulators. Who do we report NFF to? It's almost as if NFF is a realm, a kingdom on its own with no one can talk to them. They can collect $1 million, they can spend whatever they like, and no one can do anything because of FIFA. Is that what I'm hearing, really?
No, look, FIFA doesn't. What FIFA does, and I think a lot of people misunderstand that interference clause in the FIFA statutes. Now, that statute is good, and I'm going to be honest with you and say I agree with that statute, because if it wasn't for it, there would be no stability in most federations, especially in Africa. The reason why that clause is there in FIFA statute is that they want to be sure that when the Congress elects an exco, it's only the Congress that can remove them. Not today you appoint one minister today, he doesn't like the face of whoever was appointed, takes him out and brings his friend. And then when he's removed, the next one comes along, okay, you're that guy's a friend, let me bring somebody else and put in there. So he keep a certain level of stability within the federation. Of course, he has his own flaws, he has his flaws, but that's good. Now, when you talk about who should they be reported to, at the end of the day, it is the government that actually has oversight over all sporting federations. And the way the government leverages that supervisory role over the federations is funding. We saw it happen with England when the government in England wanted a change in the way the FAs, I think the way they did some of their structures, and the FA tried to resist. And the minister was put at the time and said, okay, that's fine. You're either going to do the reforms that we want, or we're going to withhold the funding that you get from the government.
Yeah.
And end of the day, what happened? The FA did what the government wanted. So it's the same thing with Nigeria. If you look at the funding that comes to the NFF, or to all the sporting federations, government funds the majority of everything, either directly through the budget or through intervention funds during special circumstances, tournaments and all of that. Now, if the government wants something to happen within the NFF or any sporting federation, it's simple. You simply tell them, okay, look, we want this to be implemented. If you don't implement it, fine, but you're not getting any couple from us again. Whether if you want to go for a tournament or whatever it is, you're on your own. You can go and borrow money, you can use your own money, you can do, but you're not getting jacked from us. When the government does that, they will sit up, they will do what needs to be done. That is a simple way of doing this thing.
So the government doesn't know this, because I mean, what we're hearing is just that these guys are just running roughshod over the country. If you fail to qualify for 3 seasons, I mean, doesn't the government feel the urgency that Nigerian youths like soccer? I mean, what we did on the AFC, the whole Nigeria was kind of united. So don't they see that this is not just the economics, but the branding, the nationality, the coming together? Don't they see what we're seeing? That we're even having a space to talk about this. I'm just worried, Colin. I mean, I hear you. Let me get. I mean, I've got lots of your folks here. Let's take Dr. Trudy and all that.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? The government. I think somebody mentioned that you must make noise and put pressure on the government. But here's the thing. You can talk a lot of all of this stuff that you want to talk about, but end of the day, you're not the one sitting down there in the briefing room when the president is asking questions and briefing him. You have people who are there who present, this is what happened, that's what happened. That's what the government is going to listen to, And again, we're in an election year where the government's focus is on the elections next year.
Yeah.
This is an election cycle. So sports is way down the priority list for them at this time. In terms of what they want to do and what they don't want to do. So I think that ultimately it's going to be a ground. So the one thing I've known about Nigerian sports is that it almost seems to act. There has to be like something like a catalyst. Back in the old days, we had a lot of all these clubs in our MPFL were probably owned Raka Rovers, Enugu Rangers, JIB Rocks. They were all Eagle Cement and Co. They were all owned and run privately. And then after a while, they got sort of like absorbed into the government ownership, So the good thing I'm seeing now is that we have the likes of Ikorodu United, we have Remo Stars, Sporting Lagos, and so on coming in. Now, it's going to be hard to convince millionaires and billionaires to come in and invest in our football economy if they are not seeing progress. And like I told part of the call, and I've said this over and over again, when Sporting Lagos was about to start, I had the initial conversations with Shola where we spoke, and I told him that, look, the advice I would give you, do not waste your money on the MPFL because it's going to be a black hole. What I would advise you to do is set up an academy, because by the time you have an academy, you transfer, even if it's one player a year that goes to Europe, you more than make up the investment you put in the academy. We went back and forth and came to a compromise to have both the club and the academy, because he really wanted to have the club. And if you look at what's going on now, it's exactly the same thing. The players from the academy leaving to Europe are helping to fund the football club. So billionaires need to have a certain amount of ROI to say, look, this is what we do. And on a final note, I'll say something I've always said in our close spaces, and Puja will probably remember. I said, look, we need a new set of fans in Nigerian football. The demographics right now is not working. The current people who go to the stadiums, they don't pay gate fee. They want you to pay for them. They won't buy merchandise. They want you to give them merchandise for free. So they don't bring any value to the economy of football, the league football in Nigeria. So we need to move away from this set of fans and bring in a new set of fans who can pay, even if it's 500, 1,000 naira a game, and then they are able to afford merchandise. And we have them already to afford merchandise for these things. To run a football club in Nigeria, a professional football club, costs at least a minimum, as of the last count that I worked it out, 400 million naira a season. Now, multiply that by 20 clubs. You're talking, and let's go to 500 million. You're talking about at least $1 billion, 2 billion naira just in running the club alone. Now, there are other opportunities for making revenues, commercializing these opportunities to make money from, and it's not being taken advantage. That's why I said I disagree with Puja when he said no, but there is value, it's just not being exploited. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, if these guys can buy Arsenal jerseys, they can buy local jerseys, but it's just something that maybe the local jerseys don't give them that same thing with Arsenal. Great point, Colin. I mean, thanks for giving us. Let's get two guys to speak, and then we'll sort of start to wind the space down. I've got Dr. Chudi and Dan Ogbeni Boye. Let's start with Dr. Chudi. We'll do Ogbeni Boye, and then we'll sort of start to wind the space. I think we've gotten the idea and the feel of what's going on in Nigerian sport. We can't do it in 3 hours, guys. When we hear nearly 3 hours, it's just not possible. A lot is going wrong, and I hope the space is just going to give us more information to then start to ask those questions. I think for me, that September election has got to be very, very key. If you're not interested before, put pressure. Like Constance said, it's an election year. Whatever they see people are interested in, that's what the government puts their eye on. If the president has to see that people are asking questions about the World Cup, he's going to say, who is the guy in charge? He wants to get people to be happy. So he's going to say, okay, let's put a few guys here so that the masses will be happy. So I think it's a good idea to put some pressure out there and to start to ask questions and say, why are we not going for the World Cup? Why is our league not commercial? Why don't we have something like what they have even in Egypt? And I think that's going to be a good way to start. Dr. Chidi, you've got the floor, then we'll do Ogbeni Boye.
Carlo, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I was really happy to see Colin. I've known Colin for a long time. Colin is the perfect person to talk about it, because he has a lot of experience. And he actually mentioned something I was going to say when I initially was trying to speak. He said that you cannot separate sports in Nigeria from the governing experience in Nigeria. And I think no matter what we're thinking, that's the fundamental question we have. In Nigeria, nothing works. The roads don't work, the lights don't work, the economy doesn't work, the security doesn't work. How are we expecting sports to work? So I think that's the biggest issue we have. Nothing is going to work. You can bring the best administrators from everywhere, and if you put them in that situation, in that Nigerian environment, is going to break down. And I think that's the biggest issue we have. I think that's different from the national team. So qualifying for the World Cup is a little different because, like in this team right now, if we had the current coach at the beginning of the World Cup qualifiers, I believe we would have qualified. But obviously the whole incompetence, not appointing the right person at the right time. Now I give them credit for eventually finding the right person. And when the coach was appointed, I was skeptical because I didn't know who he was. But whoever made that decision made the right decision because I think they appointed the right coach. But it took a long time, so they did the right thing at the wrong time. But that's beside the point of this whole conversation. Because here in the US, I think a few people have mentioned it, right? Most of the stadiums they're using for this World Cup are private stadiums. Actually, pretty much all of them, right? So there's none of that was paid for by the government. But the society works. The system works. Everything works. Sports, I think somebody said that soccer is less than baseball. I don't know if you've seen the ratings for this World Cup. I mean, this World Cup, I think they're almost up to 50 million viewers. That's more than the NBA finals right now. So soccer is a big, but the thing is you have to market it properly, right? The issue we have in Nigeria is just nothing works. Like Colin just said, if you're going to pay 400 million naira every season, in a year, that's 800 million naira. So how are you going to get the money back? You're going to do sponsorship. Somebody is going to be taking that money from the bottom. Okay? If you're going to get a sponsor, somebody is collecting their own share. With the NFF, the government is going to give them money. If the government is giving them money, somebody is taking a share of the top. So I think that's the biggest issue we have in Nigeria, the corruption. It doesn't matter how well you do. It doesn't matter how good a person is. Once you get into that system,
so
everything breaks down.
We're back to that familiar stone that pulls us down into the depths of the black morass that we cannot see. All right.
Exactly.
I mean, again, just to quickly before we go to Benny, I mean, baseball and soccer, I mean, it's just the amount of money involved. You know, again, it's number one in America is, of course, the football. Then you're talking.
No, but I think you're confusing the World Cup with soccer.
No,
you're talking about the MLS.
Yeah,
MLS. With the World Cup right now, the revenue they're going to generate from this World Cup is going to probably be more than you get from the Super Bowl.
At all. The Super Bowl is just one event, one day, right? Just one day. But if you look at the value add to America from the Super Bowl, like the playoffs, the sponsorships, the an ad costs $7 million a second. If you look at all that combined, the World Cup doesn't come close. World Cup, you're looking about for 4 years. If you look at the economics of it, just the hotels, the amount of money, the revenues that just that one day, not in that one day, but what it adds to the U.S. economy. I mean, the U.S. is hosting the Knicks. The Knicks. What's her name? The lady that does oh my God. When she goes to a town, she's generating as much fans. I forgot the name that's married to the football player. Taylor Swift. There's a Taylor Swift economy in America. When she goes to your town, the rents, the feeding, the accommodation, the advertisements in that town shoots up the roof. That's almost the same as the World Cup is doing. So it's not just the 100,000 people. University of Ohio, 100,000 fans going to watch a college game. 100,000 fans watching one college game. They have to stay somewhere. They got to eat. They got to fly in. These are Americans with credit cards. So it's just the volume of commerce around sports in America is just massive. That if you're not coming with billions, it's not going to register that much. But I get your point, sir. Let's do Ogbeni, then we'll do Eric, and then we'll just call it a day. Ogbeni, how are you doing, sir? Please, thanks for having us for us.
Good evening. Please, can we all hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
All right. It's been a very insightful space. There's been a lot that's been talked about. Mr. Colin, I'd like to just say the Sporting Lagos you consulted for the other day. I'm a proud member of that setup. Currently work as the talent manager at Sporting Lagos, and it's been about 5 years now, and we've been doing the business, and a lot has happened, just as you mentioned. Just to go into everything you've spoken about, it's a very huge huge pool when you talk about sports in Nigeria. I'm glad Puja is also a director of a club here in Nigeria, which is Ikorodu City, not Ikorodu United, by the way, and he understands what it means. When you mentioned the 400 million running costs, it is just even about the league at that point. When we look at the academy and all of the things that we have to process in an economy that gives you little or no credits, and you have to do a lot as a private owner. As you mentioned, the academy business is a whole different business when it comes to in Nigeria here. See a lot of people, quite a number of people, able to move players abroad and make cool cash from that. But people only see those success stories. We don't talk about all of the other things that goes on behind the scene. We are seeing one Zadok Yuana. We are not talking about about how many other boys that are in the academy that you are trying to push in a place where data is a major problem. Now, going to data, which is one of our biggest problems also here, because without data, how are you convincing sponsors? How are you telling people that this is a place to actually put your money? We've had multiple. I worked with a data company, a sports data company, before I joined Sporting Lagos, and we pushed some things, and it was not just about the data company. A lot of so when we are talking about the solutions, just like Mr. Colin mentioned, a lot of people come up with innovations year in, year out. When you look at the Premier League, you look at away from the Premier League, other leagues in the world, TV rights. Broadcasting is one of the ways you can, at least rack in a few millions and, keep the league sustaining and running. But even here in the MPFL, that has been fluffed a couple times. We've fumbled that a lot of times, and it begs the question, what are the people in charge and what are they looking at? So looking at a Sporting Lagos, for example, looking at an Ikorodu City, I'm seeing staffs from Remo Stars over here also. I think is one of the ways to go. The private clubs, it's not easy, to be honest, but I think it's one of the ways to go. Remo Stars was able to, build through Kunle Shoname, get their own stadium, a almost world-class facility here in Nigeria. Did that by himself as a private investor, and now the national teams use that particular facility most times when they have a major competition they are preparing for, apart from the Super Eagles. The Falcons played Senegal there just weeks ago. The under-17 national team trains there. The under-20 national teams train there. Puja mentioned the Mohammed VI facility. That is the type of things that the government should be doing. But it's so sad that in our economy and our society, private individuals are able to build multi-billion facilities that the government have not been able to hack. Sporting Lagos were building our own stadium before the landmark thing happened. It was not the biggest of stadiums. But we can now imagine 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 private individuals like that doing things like that. But the fact remains that it is not an easy route. It is not as easy as it sounds. I know how much we have to do to be able to market one player before we can even, sell to the top of the league. So we are not getting TV rights and broadcasting rights. We're not getting data rights. We're not getting a lot of things right. If you check on Y Scouts, on iBall, which are one of the Instat and all of that, which are the biggest data platforms, you see every club in England. I mean, just like as you've said, Mr. Kalu, in the US, in England, from Division 1, Y Scout has data up onto the Eastman Leagues, which is about the 7th, 8th tier in England. But yeah, even the first tier, only some of these private clubs can boast of actual data, can be able to, say, and the problem is very simple. Who are the people running the clubs? In a government club, it's about appointments. It is seen as a CSR. They don't really care what happens. The governor is doing something. It's a CSR. Is giving money to somebody. Somebody's just, running things. But at private clubs, for example, at Sporting Lagos, you have something. Just a quick one. So
in effect, what I hear you just summarize that if you don't have money, you can't do sports in Nigeria. That's a correct statement, right? If you don't have money as an entrepreneur, you really can't. You shouldn't really be into this sports in Nigeria. Yeah.
Of course. Let me answer that. Let me answer that question. If you don't have money anywhere, you can't be into sports. Look at the NFL in the US. It's owned by billionaires. The NBA
across the board,
or venture capitalists. So you can't. But the thing is, and that's why it's so sad for us that this is 2026 and government is still running sports in Nigeria. We all know the inefficiencies of government worldwide, not just in Nigeria. Worldwide, government agencies are not the most efficient. And when it comes to Nigeria, inefficiency is the middle name of government, whether it's civil service or anything else. All the major parastatals run by government, NITEL, NEPA, name it, they've all been run aground, and the few that got revived were revived when they were now privatized. So we need to come to the point where we can all accept that, government does not need to be involved in sports anymore.
Yeah.
We need to just hands off and allow private individuals to run it. I was going to mention something that Benny mentioned about the Sporting Lagos Stadium. That stadium, again, the other reason for that stadium being built was that when we started Sporting Lagos, we were having trouble scheduling games because it's either, the government has this event to do here, or you can't have Tesla Balogun for today, you can have Onikon, or you can't have Onikon now. So, and that decision was made to say, look, you know what, let's have our own. And the other reason was that if you look at every single stadium in Nigeria, only two stadiums in Nigeria, Uyo Stadium and Abuja Stadium, have the capacity for VIP lounge, proper VIP lounges. The rest are just the so-called VIP lounge in quotes. It's just for government officials to come and sit down and do and segregate themselves from the rest of the population. So the part of the idea behind having that stadium for Sporting Lagos was, one, to have executive lounges where corporate partners can come and have enjoy the experience of not just watching the football game, but just enjoying being out there. So it included not just those lounges, but restaurants, different other activities, so that you're not just going there for the game, you're going there for the full 360 experience. So until we begin to think in that way and have that, it's going to be difficult.
Well said.
Yeah,
well said. I mean, you the team experience. You go, you buy the merchandise, you eat the food, you cheer your team. Everybody makes money. You go home happy. I mean, Arsenal is making more money in Nigeria than many Nigerian soccer teams in Nigeria. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just crazy. Yeah.
So the amount of money that Dangote wanted to invest in buying Arsenal would have been 10 times more than enough to buy up the entire MPFL and reinvent it. And that's another issue where I take issue with the billionaires in Nigeria. And I think that it's probably time for them, to come together and say, hey, look, you know what, let's revive this thing. Because here's the thing. Part of the problem we have is that we're doing a bottoms-up approach, and it's not going to work. If we have 5 billionaires, Elumelu, Dangote, and they can't make the person and say, look, you know what, I think it's time for us to revive sports, just like the way the telecoms was revived and so on. So give us this franchise, let's run it. Each of them can come up and say, hey, look, you know what, let's put, just like an accelerator, startup accelerator, or say, look, let's redo this, get this guy out and start a new, they would definitely get it done, but I don't think they are motivated enough to want to go in that direction. Until they are ready and willing to do it, we will still remain in this quagmire that we find ourselves in.
I can imagine if Dangote and Elumelu are running an NFL team. I just can't imagine what happened. Pocha, do you have any comments? Any projects?
Okay, quick one. I think that's my Oga. Oga Colin, has spoken a lot, and I think, unfortunately, someone like him, who has been in the system, should be back into the system. But unfortunately, because of what is going on at the NFF now, is actually in America, and this is the kind of people that we want in our football. Someone that is, was inside the system, knew the problem and he was pushed out, and to come in now, to even submit a proposal to the NFF is a problem. They don't even know what is going on. So, and like I said, we need a revolution because, like I said, we are sitting on time bomb. This same NFF could be the next NFF that will spend another 4 years. Now imagine what these last 4 years have done to our football. We failed to qualify for the World Cup. We failed to qualify for back-to-back under 17. We failed to qualify for under 20 AFCON. We have one of the worst league in Africa. So if this guy come back, they come back to our football, they are going to reappoint their friends, and we continue this rot again and again for another 4 years. So approximately that means we'll be wasting 8 years of our football. Because there's no way we can push these guys off. That's what I'm saying. We need revolution. We need a big interference in this football. I don't care if you are going to ban, if you are going to ban us, but we need to fix this football. Because like I said, if football is good, it will trickle down to other sports. Because like I said, when these new National Sports Commission guys got into power, they were faction in basketball, they were faction in wrestling, the Athletic Federation was in shambles. So how can we have these people that can come back and spend another 4-year term? It's going to be a problem. And, my guy said, we need something drastic to happen to our sports in Nigeria.
Completely agree with all the sentiments made, and that's why we are holding this space. I mean, till somebody does it, then people see the money. That's Nigerians like to do follow. To when someone comes in and there's money now, he makes $1 billion exporting, and everybody's going to rush into it. Let's go home with Mr. Tao. Mr. Eric, I know you've been hanging out patiently. You've heard a lot of the experts talk around this. What's your take? Take us home, Eric, real quick, and then we'll just call the day. Allow my August to go home and enjoy their Sundays.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Great space. I've heard everyone speak, and there's been a lot of back and forth on the problems and the solves. But I think where I'm going to come from, just to take it home, is the food science angle in terms of where Nigeria is now. So I did a bit of research before doing the space, just to look at before the EPL was founded.
Yeah.
The consumption of meat and milk in Britain.
Oh.
So it wasn't until the British people started eating meat up by 55% before the EFL was founded. Meat consumption had to go up by 320%. The people selling refrigeration for fridges, before the league was founded, they were only 600. By the time the league was founded, they were about 2,000. So just looking at the way, and all this was necessary for a healthy population that could support player production and attendance. So the way I see, there was a lot of conversation last year in Nigeria about, I don't know if you heard about something about fake milk or something about a lesser and adulterated version of milk Nigerians are now drinking. I'm not very current on that. But I think our Ministry of Health and Ministry of Food, they play just as much as an important role right now where we are, where the country is, to the development of the sports industry as the people investing in stadiums and people investing in. But I have a family friend right now. He's playing in the World Cup. He's playing for Canada. And he told me he grew up in Abuja. We grew up together. He schooled in Abuja. It wasn't until he was 10 years, I think 12 years old, he came to Canada and then started playing. He told me his parents, I spoke to his parents, and he said, well, back then, the food situation, you wouldn't notice a difference if you were a Nigerian or if you were a Canadian or if you were, food was good. So by the time they got to Canada, he was able to sort of just continue from where he was. Now, this was 2009. I don't know how food situation has changed between 2009 and now.
It's worse.
But if we can say that it's worse, then he told me right now in the Canadian Football Association, depending on where you are from, if you have West African origins or maybe Middle Eastern, they advise you on what you should eat and what you should not eat if you are visiting your home country or if you are going to those regions. They'll tell you specifically, as a player, don't eat this, don't eat that. Maybe if it's milk, I guess milk now must have been included since the events of last year. So he told me, they are not advised to take milk in Nigeria. So like if you're going to play a game in the next month or 2 months, just avoid drinking milk from West Africa. And it's questions like this that, I mean, the important questions, things like the president, things like people, the stakeholders, but is anybody looking at the health side of it? Because I think if we do not get the food and health before the major problems, I don't think we're going to go anywhere. I mean, the people who are going to come to the Nigerian, I think it was Jack that was talking about our personal domestic leagues. This is the people who live in Enugu that are going to come to watch games in Enugu. If the milk and meat is not good, and the price of meat in England went down by 40% before they could even form an ESL. Like, I understand that technology and the way globalization has gone, a lot of processes that we needed to have taken have been jumped. So we don't have the pharmaceutical industry that created aspirin and cod liver oil.
I think, Eric, I think you bring a new dimension. I think your points are noted. It's not just the playing on the pitch that matters. You are bringing the fact that, listen, there are other things that the nation has got to worry about. Like we said, if you can't feed kids, they can't play any sports. If you don't have medical services, you can't play any sports. Like with Colin has said, we can't remove sports from Nigeria. If we don't have green areas where kids can go and tie rubber together and play, and how we used to do it, monkey post and all that, all the green spaces being built luxury estates now, where do the kids play? If we don't have those good stories, because kids learn by imitation, what's going to happen? I think it's a good point you bring up. I didn't know that causation part about food and EFL. It's good you're bringing it up, because the kids are eating Indomie today. Well, a standard kid in Nigeria eats Indomie. I don't know how you build that muscle and grit with Indomie. Colin, you want to take us home? I mean, that was a good one by Eric, I would say.
Yeah, I do actually. And I think just to address that, yes, the food issue is important. But let's not also forget that a lot of the food abroad, like Pooja said, I live here in the US, and I remember when somebody was saying about soccer. I'm a soccer dad. In fact, this weekend, my daughter's high school was playing in their state tournaments, and we drove 4 hours, paid hotel. So first of all, we drove 4 hours to go to the venue of the state tournament. Paid for hotel for 2 nights. Each night was about, they gave us a discount for the hotel. It was about $195 per night for the hotel. Then there was meals and other stuff, and then we had to pay for some certain things for them and so on and so forth. And then, of course, gas and stuff. But that's just the high school game. The tournament, every year you pay for per year, the fee is $2,500 a year, and then you have to buy kits, the jerseys, the bags, the cleats. My daughter goes to 3 sets of kit because she's growing and her feet are big. So 3 sets of football boots a season, and each one's about $200 each, for her. So, and then there's hotel bills every time we travel for game, and so you have to pay hotel bills and so on and so forth. This tournament almost every weekend. So there's a lot of money involved in all of that. But that's what I want to close out with here was that we keep talking about government, but you see, we are also an issue, not just the government. Now, we used to have Youth Fund tournaments. Our first under 17 World Cup win, those players were selected from Youth Fund. We used to have the Principal's Cup, where the Principal's Cup used to feed into Youth Fund, and then Youth Fund was now fed into the national teams. Recently, there was talk, about 10 years ago or so, there was talk to revive that Youth Fund, the Principal's Cup competition, all of that. The problem was that the Ministry of Education in the States and the Ministry of Sports were fighting. They could not agree. So one said, "Oh, I own it. I own because they are students." The other one said, "Oh, it's sports, so I own it." And they couldn't come together. So let's collaborate together and get this thing running. The same thing with Nuga, with the higher institutional football league. My friend who used to be at one of these companies was the lead in this higher institutional football league, and they had so many problems both with the schools and the sports. So it's not just an issue at the top, it's also issues at the bottom. We as Nigerians, we need to fix up from an individual level before we even start talking about those who are at the very top. And that's where I'm going to sort of like kind of land this plane, which is that we all have to look inward and ask ourselves, what are we doing to make these things better? Pooja mentioned it, that I was with the NFF for a while. And a lot of people sometimes take me to tell like, oh, you were there. I did a lot of work, and I'll give you an example of it. The NFF signed contracts with sponsors. You have ITU, you have Coca-Cola, and so on and so forth. But at the beginning of the year, you're supposed to send in at least your calendar of events for that year so that your partners and sponsors know exactly what they are going to do when they are going to do it. That did not happen. That would not happen. I had to take it on myself. At the beginning of every year, I would sit down, I will start asking everybody, where are we going? Are we playing friendly here? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? And then I put all of that together and distribute. So I made myself almost like I was on the committee, like every other person. I didn't have to do it. But instead, I kind of turned myself into a marketing liaison for it because I wanted to make sure the sponsors had value for what they are paying for. And the guys at Coca-Cola till tomorrow still kind of reach out to me and say, look, thank you for what you did for us, because I will send them those calendars, I will let them know, and then I will now work out, for instance, sometimes the team will complain that they don't have water, so they'll go and buy water, bottled water from a rival company. Coke would see it and freak out. And I would have to now beg him, please take off the label. In fact, the team manager keeps calling me take out the label because I said take out the label so that nobody sees that it's a rival company. So that was where this thing started from. And I'll make sure that before the team even comes to camp, I get an idea of how many players and officials and co were going to come, how many days they're going to be in camp, how many bottles of water per head each person would require, and then send that inventory to Coke, so that they could now make all those things available. And then I would personally monitor the trucks to make sure they got to the hotel. In fact, there was one time they got to a hotel said we must pay corkage for the water that was being brought in before. And that corkage came in the form of take for every 10, if we brought in 10 parts of water, they would take 3 out of that was their corkage that they were taking. So these are the little things behind the scenes. And this is just an example of the stuff that I was forced to do. That was not my job, but I had to do because for me, it was a case of, let's not be that it's this thing, there's a scandal while I'm here, and then my name now becomes associated with this scandal. So I was now becoming a liaison, an unpaid liaison for the NFF, managing sponsors and partners. So let's just say that we all have a duty and responsibility to do what we can to help this move forward.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that's just background information that we never would know unless you tell that to us. And just tells you the way we all have to be individually committed. From the family level, from the local level, state, let's leave federal. We just have to get involved. And we put just sounding the alarm. September, there's an election coming up. We just can't throw our hands in the air and say, oh, we can't do anything. I think if we make an effort towards ensuring that the right people get there. The right people have got to be there before you can ask for good policies to then transit down. So, I mean, I'm going to be tweeting about this. I don't know what my tweet to do, but I think you should also do that as well. Let's at least get attention on that. I know how politicians move in Nigeria. Once they see people are interested in something, they also go there. So let's put our minds there. I want to thank everyone that has come to this space today. It's not our usual kind of space. We're usually talking money, the economy, and personal finance. Today, we're talking about the business of football i.e. sports. We just chose football because that alone is an animal in itself. And I also want to thank Poja, thank Collins, Dr. Albany. Everyone has commented a lot of content. And so should I say, subject experts have come to the space to educate us civilians about what's going on. I think I'm richly enlightened about what's happening here, and we can only hope for the better. We didn't even touch clubs in Nigeria that much. We didn't even touch infrastructure. I had a picture up of the Abuja Stadium and the Lagos Stadium. It's a mess. I don't know how a nation can allow the national stadium turn to what it is. Abuja is down, Lagos is down, we're not using the one in Uyo and a private one. Doesn't speak well of us, guys. So, just thanks all for coming in, and I hope you guys have learned something. And the whole idea of our space is advocacy. We give you the information for you to then go advocate. So I hope you got some information today that you can go be an advocate in Little Cycle, and that Little Cycle can then advocate up to the local, state, and of course to the federal. On that note, guys, let me let you guys go. Go enjoy the World Cup. We'll be back here next week on that topic. Poja, again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this and for bringing all your folks here. I appreciate you for that. You guys have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you guys next time we do call. Have a good one, and bye.